What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for September 25th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy Hump Day to everybody out there. Before we get into today's episode, let's do a little housekeeping. Follow me on social media, Twitter and TikTok, Jimbo_Mont, at Instagram, at PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Spread the word. If you're enjoying it and think someone else will too, let them know about the podcast. You're listening. Why not let them? If you're interested in any information regarding the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony, everything you need is in the link in the description. Give you a list and bios of the inductees as well as ticket information, and still looking for items for the silent auction as well as sponsors. So all of that information is there. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. All right. Let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. And this one really got everyone talking. And I asked you, whose decision making are you more concerned about? Is it Jalen or Nick? 58% of you said Nick. There's quite a few of you that said both. I personally, I still think it's an easy scapegoat to blame Nick Sirianni for the Eagles' troubles. But, I mean, like I said, I'm not sitting here and saying he is the next Vince Lombardi either. Certainly a lot of questionable calls and things that leave you with your scratching your head and wondering what the heck is he doing. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. There'll be another one later in the show. 267-495-8531. That will get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get anything Philly sports related off your chest. Everything is up and fair game. All right, let's start with the Eagles. We should get more information today about the extent of the injuries to Devontae, AJ, and Lane. If I had to guess, I definitely think Devontae is not going to play. Likely the same with Lane as well. But we'll see. I mean, the guys that filled in certainly did a good job for the offensive line yesterday. But it comes down to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown could be on track to play this week. I don't know if they're going to force it, if there's any questions with the bye coming up next week. If neither one of those guys play, it could be some issues. Quick early look at that game. The line right now, Eagles are favored by 2.5. The over-under is 45. But it's Wednesday. There hasn't been any real updates on the injury reports. So that could change. But I don't know what to make of this game yet. Hopefully we'll get some clarity and some information regarding the injuries, and that'll help guide what I'm thinking about. But as of right now, I don't even know where I would go with the three keys or anything yet. So stay tuned for that as we go. And one final thing, stemming back from last week that I think would have probably been more talked about had it not been for the game flow and some of Nick Sirianni's decisions, was at the end of the game, Jalen Carter was very, very fired up, had to be restrained by Clint Hurt at one point. Big Dom was involved, and Nick Sirianni, and just very emotional about some of, the dirty plays and just how well he played. And I do think it's something to watch, just giving how emotional that he is. However, I like it. I mean, I feel like the way the defense had played up until last week's game, we need somebody like that. And Jalen Carter is a stud. Jalen Carter is going to be a superstar. So, I mean, hopefully he gets that a little bit under control and can harness that into the play on the field. But I don't have any problem with him being fired up. I think that's what that defense was lacking. So for me, I'm all about it. But let me know your thoughts on that. 267-495-8531. Is that something that we should be concerned about? Like I said, I don't mind him having the emotional outburst and being ready to go like that. But I do think it needs to be harnessed and channeled into the right way to let it out. But again, no problem whatsoever, especially with the way the dirty plays played out and the way he played himself. I'm all for it. Show some emotion. Have some swagger. get pissed off. Stick up for your teammates. I'm all about that. So let me know your thoughts, though. 267-495-8531. That's not necessarily the question of the day, but definitely would love to hear your thoughts on that. Check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. Doing great things over there, baseball, football, gearing up for postseason baseball and a big series with the Mets and the Braves. So lots of good things happening, so check them out. And then go to Philly Goat. We are in the playoffs. We did clinch the division. Get your Believe shirt, just like Ted Lasso. The guys wear it on the field. My daughter has it. It's one of my favorite shirts. And they also have, if you enjoyed John Middleton's little rant in the locker room celebration, they have a shirt that says, "Get my effing trophy back," with the PH. And it's incredible. Can't wear that to work. Probably not suitable for work, depending on where you work, though. But go to Philly Goat. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. My voting shirt has shipped. The one with the Democrat, the Republican, and the Philly Fanatic with the checkbox. Cannot wait to wear that. As soon as I get it, I'll show it to you. It's an incredible shirt. But go to Philly Goat if you don't want to wait. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery. Take 10% off of your order. All right, now the Phillies. I mean, that's kind of what we expected. There was a lot of people upset about the celebration because there's still a lot to play for. Whether it's you're trying to get that bye, ultimately trying to get that 1 seed. The reports I heard from the locker room were it wasn't as bad as everybody said it was. They were pretty well subdued once they got to Xfinity Live. But come on, man. I mean, it's been how many years since they won the division? Lighten up a little bit. This was going to be one of those scheduled losses anyway. You had Tanner McKee starting, and then, or not Tanner McKee. He's an ex-Eagles quarterback. Tanner Banks starting, and then it went to Kobe Allard and Taijuan Walker, and the ghost of fifth starters past haunted us again as neither one of them could get any outs. I do kind of feel bad somewhat for Taijuan, though. He was put in a shitty situation, bases loaded. I think there was 1 out. So, I mean, you got to do a better job than that, but I don't know. I mean, thank God we're almost done with the fifth starter. It's amazing to me how you can go from the top 4, and even with Ranger being a little shaky after the injury, and then such a big drop-off to the fifth starter. But hopefully that should be the last time we need to worry about the fifth starter. There are only 4 games left, and there's a day off, so the Phillies should be fine heading into the postseason. But let's check the standings. They're up 2.5 on Milwaukee for that 2 seed, a half a game back of the Dodgers for the 1 seed. Magic number still remains at 2 for the 2 seed. It is at 5, I believe, for the 1 seed. But it all depends on what the Dodgers do, because they lost last night to San Diego. So San Diego all of a sudden is sneaking up in there as well. Obviously, the magic number over San Diego is smaller. Christopher Sanchez takes the mound today. Would love to. Hopefully, the Pirates can beat the Brewers and we beat the Cubs and clinch that 2 seed. And then, truthfully, really go into a meaningless last series down in Washington. All right, today we are going to go back to 1990. And on this day in 1990, the Phillies lost to the Cardinals 1-0 at the Vet. Terry Mulholland, though, came into this game with the intentions of throwing a no-hitter. Apparently, the night before, he was watching a replay of his no-hitter from earlier that season with his dad and said, you know what? I want to pitch a no-hitter today. And he didn't pitch a no-hitter, obviously, but he was sharp. It's all about mindset with Terry Mulholland on this day. Obviously, the no-hitter went out the window on the very first pitch of the game. Gave up a triple to Bernard Gilkey, then a sacrifice fly to Geronimo Pena. And from there, though, it was all Terry Mulholland. He did not allow another base runner until there were 2 outs in the 9th when he gave up a double to Bernard Gilkey. He ended up the day pitching all 9 innings, complete game, took the loss, had 2 strikeouts on 100 pitches. The Phillies, to their credit, pounded out 10 hits that day, but left 11 runners on base. They went 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position, but it was all about Terry Mulholland, who was outstanding, came into the game with the intention of throwing a no-hitter, lost that on the first pitch, but was able to remain focused and only gave up one other hit, both hits to Bernard Gilkey, a double and a triple too. So he almost called his shot and would have if it wasn't for Bernard Gilkey that day. But on this day back in 1990, Phillies lost to the Cardinals 1-0 at Veterans Stadium. Terry Mulholland was outstanding though. All right, finally today, our Philly sports villain. And this one definitely brings out a lot in me, and that is Scott Rolen. And there's multiple layers to this one. Obviously, you take a look at Scott Rolen. He was supposed to be the savior for the Phillies, help lead them to a title, and was solid. I mean, he was an all-star, one of the best third basemen in the game. Lots of comparisons to Mike Schmidt, whether fair or unfair, but he was a Gold Glover, could do it with his bat as well, won Rookie of the Year in 1996. However, he grew very impatient with the Phillies organization. They kept promising him that they were going to build a winner. He wanted them to spend money, and back during this time, the Phillies did spend money. I remember it was a topic of every season. It was a topic of discussion that they spent money like a small market club, despite being Philadelphia, which at the time was either the fourth or the fifth largest market in the country. So there's no reason why they couldn't have spent the money. They just chose. But maybe Scott, and this is the first thing that really irritates me and rubs me the wrong way about him. Perhaps if he was a little bit more patient and could maybe have a little bit of foresight, because at the time, Ed Wade was building a championship farm system. You had guys like Rollins, Utley, Pat Burrell, Ryan Howard, guys that would be the core of that championship team. Cole Hamels being drafted, playing through the farm system, and Scott Rolen, I guess, wanted the instant gratification. And it looked as though the Phillies weren't doing anything, but Ed Wade obviously had long-term goals that eventually did pay off, because they did put a championship team together not long after Rolen left even. So perhaps he could have been a little bit more patient. The other strike against Scott Rolen is he did not get along with Larry Bowa. And, I mean, this is a double-edged sword. Larry Bowa is a Philly legend, won a World Series, pretty much encapsulates the mindset of Phillies fans. He was tough. He was hard-nosed. He was old school. Wasn't afraid to call out. One of the things that really irritated Scott Rolen was at one point they were in a slump. I think they lost to the Rays or got swept by the Rays. And Larry Bowa basically said, the middle of our lineup is killing me. Scott Rolen, just like the Michael Jordan post from The Last Dance, he took that personally. And truthfully, he probably should have. But Scott Rolen was used to Terry Francona, who we talked about a few days ago, basically was just trying anything and was considered a quote-unquote player's manager. Larry Bowa came in and wasn't having any of it. You don't do your job, you're going to get called out. And Scott Rolen didn't like that. So that was strike two. And this last one pretty much, I think, is what was the final nail in his coffin with Philly fans. He turned down $140 million, claimed it wasn't about the money, claimed it was for his own sanity and his family, and ended up signing a similar contract in St. Louis. Coming off, to me, and right or wrong, and I mean, I've softened a bit over the years with this, but comes off very soft. Like Carson Wentz-esque. Rather go where there's not the heavy media and fan scrutiny as there is in Philadelphia. Went to play in St. Louis. Now, to his credit, he put together a Hall of Fame career both there and in Cincinnati. But very much so came like he didn't want to be here, didn't want to play in the city, and you all know that. We don't like that very much. We just want to be loved. And I know it sounds kind of funny, but that's all we want. We want you to be here as much as we want you to be here. And if you don't want to be here, screw you. Get out of here. I can go through a lot of the guys on the villain list we've been talking about had very similar attitudes. I don't want to be here. Well, see you later. And yes, I am still very bitter about the whole Scott Rolen situation because I really do think, obviously it worked out for the Phillies during that 5-year stretch. But, I mean, third base, Pedro Feliz was okay. Placido Polanco was okay. But I wonder if you had a guy like Scott Rolen playing third base. Imagine an infield of Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins, and Scott Rolen. That's a great infield. I mean, we had 3 of the 4 of them, but it seemed like there was always a revolving door at third base. All because Scott Rolen didn't want to play in Philly or wasn't patient, whatever you want to say. Was he right, though? I mean, excuse me, at the time, we were all mad that the Phillies weren't spending. We said the same thing. This is Philadelphia. We are a big market town. Stop acting like we're a small market club. Those were key terms going into one of the work stoppages and all that. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being overly sensitive about it, but I'm still bitter about it. And last year when he was inducted, or I guess it was this year, he was inducted into the Phillies Wall of Fame when he went into the Hall of Fame. I don't know. I mean, he spent more years here, I believe, than he did any other city. So he's a Hall of Famer, I guess, by the very definition. You have to put him in. I mean, I guess if you're going to put Juan Samuel in, you got to put Scott Rolen in. No offense, Sammy. But, all right, I guess the Wall of Fame. I'm just not a fan. I can hold grudges with the best of them, and I still, to this day, hold a grudge against Scott Rolen. And you know what? Screw you. You want to go to St. Louis? Go to St. Louis then. We won I mean, I think he did win a championship in St. Louis, so I can't even say that. Whatever. I don't like Scott Rolen. But what do you think? That is today's question of the day. Should Scott Rolen be a villain on our list today? Is he a Philly sports villain? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Let me know your thoughts on that. Again, I'm probably being overly bitter, overly sensitive, but I just feel like he could have been more patient. Could the team have spent more money? Yes, but at the same time, look at what it got us. I mean, you got to have that foresight, Scott. You could have had a ring here in Philly. Just throwing it out there. And I mean, I would take $140 million to play losing baseball. I mean, come on. But let me know your thoughts. Is Scott Villain? Yeah, see, that's where my thought process is. Scott Villain. Is Scott Rolen worthy of being a Philly sports villain? Let me know. 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Kind of a light day today as we gear up for the Eagles-Tampa Bay. The Phillies had their hangover day yesterday, I guess you could call it. Hopefully they come back out today, and we'll be rooting for the Pirates. Channel my inner father-in-law who's a huge Pirates fan, and let's go Buccos. Let's go Phillies. Let's clinch that 2 seed today and then have a very stress-free weekend against the Nationals. And hopefully the Padres can help us out a little bit with the Dodgers as well. On this day back in 1990, Phillies lost to the Cardinals 1-0. Terry Mulholland wanted to throw a no-hitter, gave up a triple on the first pitch, but only gave up one more hit the rest of the game and was absolutely sharp. The Phillies' bat just let him down on this day. We will have more on the Eagles and injury updates as they come out, hopefully today. But again, if you still want to get some lingering Nick Sirianni thoughts off of your chest, give me a call or text me on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Anything else is fair game. Let me know your thoughts on Rolen. Should he be a Philly sports villain, or is this just me being bitter Betty over here and holding a grudge unnecessarily? I mean, convince me otherwise, as the meme says. Scott Rolen is a Philly sports villain. Prove me wrong. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for September 25th, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.